So this is Rambaa Samdet, and he's showing me some clinch throws. And this one is a slight lift when someone has a lock on you, and then you can see from his foot he's just kind of tagging my standing foot so that I can't move. And you're just popping someone off. I was making a mistake by putting too much emphasis on the lift. The lift is just that little bit. He's bigger than me, so I can't actually lift him. It's all coming from the foot. He comes right after me because this is Rambaa's method. You get like 1 or 2 tries to like break down the technique and then just put in the context of real fighting immediately. But you can see how I'm like flailing in the air with this pop-off. And the thing is, the technique is cool. Like it's cool that you can throw someone this way, but the experience of being thrown like that, his kind of program of these trips that he shows me in this video, as the opponent, you feel like he can just toss you anywhere and it looks completely effortless. It takes something out of you to feel that ineffective. See how I'm just falling through the air out of fucking nothing? And he's like, yeah, you just move your foot like this a little bit. So see how he has the double lock on me? He wants that like super inside position and he's going into my armpit. He wants me to put my thumb kind of into his armpit, which he does not do there to show that it's not the point. And then he just stands there like, look how easy that is. He's actually pulling down on me to put weight on me as you would in the clinch. And so when I pop him up, it's actually just breaking his lock more than it's actually the throwing part up top that moves him. It's the part down on the bottom that moves him. But this is an explosive movement. This is not a slow trying to pry someone off. Rambaa's system is all this very explosive, very distinct movements. He's like a bee that stings you over and over and over again. This one he shows me is definitely a foul. He's putting his calf on my calf and hooking it. So the part down below is a foul, but the part up top where he shoves my shoulders, that's the part that actually works. And that's the part that hides the foul. So I've actually seen people use this even though it's a foul. And if you do it fast enough and hard enough, people are only going to pay attention to that top part. See how he pushes? It's like he's doing a push-up against me. And he pulls his leg back after he's shoved me, further hiding the fact that he just hooked my leg. I'm putting my butt back when I shove, which takes the impact out. See, I'm like leaning my head forward. I can tell that I'm doing it wrong, but I can't quite figure out how to do it differently. I'm trying to like step behind him a little bit, which is not right. You're supposed to hook, like you kind of put pressure on the back of the leg in order to paralyze that leg, and then it's the shove that really sends someone flying. I had to figure out that I had to put my hands on the inside. You can't shove someone from the outside. So swim inside, hook the leg, and then push. And he's explaining to me that because he knows what I'm trying to do, he's changing his body positions, which makes it harder for me to do it. He's like, your opponent doesn't know you're going to do this, so they'll go flying. See how he's hooking? He puts his Achilles tendon on my calf like that and kind of pulls. He's going to show with his fingers here the pressure. You put pressure on the back of the leg. It's actually a hook. And then because you're putting pressure on the back, once you shove them, you can continue pulling your leg back to its original position. It's kind of like those old cartoons when they have that really long hook and they like pull someone off the stage. It's like that on the leg. So he can feel it. When he gets excited and tells me, yeah, that's how you do it, it's because he can feel the inability to like regain his balance as he's being thrown. So here he's showing the 2 things that he's just showed me already. And then he wants me to knee, and I'm so nervous. I don't want to knee because he's showing me throws. But he puts his leg underneath my knee and then does the same shove. So this is like variations on a theme. Basically, this is all like how to make your opponent feel completely off balance and ineffectual at all points in the fight. But it's the same shove, and you put your knee up underneath their knee in order to pin it. Like, you don't have to lift it necessarily. You're just pinning it so that they're on one leg, and then you shove them. This is what's crazy about this one. I learned this same thing from Berkler, who's about as opposite from Rambaa as you can get. It's got this like old traditional, like super, call him Ajarn, like everything is about maintaining old school Muay Thai. And then you've got the like first Thai MMA world champion who's just insane. Like, if you watch Rambaa's old fights, he is the craziest. You're like, what did Thailand think of this dude? And they use the same technique, so spread the love. So here's the next one, which is really, really good. So if someone's coming up to knee, instead of going underneath their kneeing leg, you're going to kind of tap out their standing leg. It's not a knee. It's you kind of lean into them and then pull the head to like help distort them. It's like a spin, but it's really important not to knee the standing leg. You just kind of tip your hip into it. I call it the Elvis hip when I'm showing it to people. See how he's bending his body to the side? That's how you get more height if you want to come underneath their leg. Is Joe Hong Tong calls it dog pee-pee, so you like think of a dog peeing on a hydrant, and you just need to like turn your body, like tip your body to the side to get more height. I can't do it on him, but the shove is the important part. I just hit him in the balls, which is why you do not knee that standing leg. You just tip into it and then pull the head to help. So here he's starting to put them all together. He wants me to kind of like riff on it and use all of the different ones that he's been showing me so that you become more unpredictable. If you're doing the same thing over and over again, like what he was saying before, how he starts to adjust his body position so it's harder for me to do it, they're just anticipating it. So if you have things that are all pretty similar so you can choose them very quickly, but your opponent doesn't know which one you're going to do, that's what sends them flying, and that's what gets in your head and makes you feel like you can't even grab someone. I like that one. That one's my favorite. How he just like walks past you. I had a hard time figuring this one out. Look at his knee when he finishes the move, how it's bent over to the side. I'm like stepping behind him, which is, you don't just step behind. You actually stomp down. And look at his knee. See how his knee is going into the back of my knee? And then he just kind of like buckles my leg as he's coming behind me. It's like Chart Chai when he's throwing his hook or his jab, his foot like stomps down. So there I'm kind of like turning a little bit because I'm not stomping properly. But the stomp puts the little explosion in it. And then you're just pushing your shoulder basically into them to tip them over. So the power comes from just walking into them, but the impact, like the explosive part, is that knee as you stomp down behind their knee. And that's what you do with your forearm in order to help push them past. So that's the exact same thing that Karhat uses in his clinch, how he pushes on the side instead of turning people with a pull. Using your forearm on someone's neck is a huge technique secret in Thailand. It's not a secret because people don't keep it a secret, but it's something that isn't taught in the West, maybe because people don't know it yet. But so here he's trying to put it together with, see how he will show the technique for when someone is pretty static. And then if you add the timing of when someone is kneeing, it just makes it that much easier. But if you can time it with someone's knee, it makes them not really want to knee again because they think that they messed up. But it's just being on one leg. See how I'm not walking into him? Like I'm leaving my leg back a little bit. I need to be bending that knee into the back of his knee and then using my position on his neck to help. That's where the actual power comes from. He helped me, so I kind of fell down with him. But the more you work on these and the more you start to feel them, the timing on them is basically like the moment you lock up. So it's basically you get into the clinch and do these kind of immediate throws rather than trying to find the right position in order to do it. But the way it looks from the outside when you make contact and someone is immediately going to the ground is really impactful. So here he's showing how he went after my one leg, so I stepped back to protect it, and so he just kicked out the leg that was in front. So by me pulling my leg back to protect myself, it exposed the other leg, and he just took it out. It's like nowhere to escape to. You're just gonna get thrown either way.
Like this lift? Most of it is right there.
So I'd been taught this body lock lift where you grab the body, you do a very slight lift, and then you just kind of tap the ankle. It's exactly the same as what he was doing with the upper body. So all of this stuff is just variations. But now he's putting it into kind of like live action. And I'm just going to get my ass kicked. But the thing to look at while I'm getting my ass kicked is that my body's really stiff. Like, I'm very tense because he's so hard to deal with. And I'm basically looking for a position. Like, I'm trying to find a position that I'm comfortable in order to throw something. And he's already thrown 4 things. So what Rambaa's system is not this, I'm trying to find an ideal dominant position where I can lock you. It's more like, I'm going to find a moment when you're not prepared and throw you. And those moments are all the time when someone is looking for a better position. So that was good because I used the timing of him trying to get his lock in to kind of pop him off. But I kept my butt back, so I didn't have the power to do it. But he's trying to put it into the context of all of this movement. So I'm just getting stuck with the difficulty of the first thing, which is like how he's holding my neck. And then he has like 3 or 4 other things, lines of defenses behind that. But he can feel when I'm getting frustrated trying to get my arm in, and that's when he steps behind me and knocks me over. He just wants me to put into action all of the things that he just showed me. And you have to go live with it. Like, you have to put it into the context of real clinching. But my problem here is I'm trying to be comfortable and I'm trying to, like, win. You just want to try to do the 3 things, the 4 things he showed you over and over and over again with enough variety that he's not anticipating it. But be thrown. Like, be thrown 100 times. Fail to throw him 100 times. Like, just learn to feel it. It's what they talk about in jiu-jitsu all the time, but it's clinching. It's everything is feel. And it makes you tired to get up, but it makes you less tired to do it, 20 times, because then you get better at it. So see how I'm trying to find a better position? Like, I have no way to even grab him. That's when I should be just getting under his armpit and putting my foot on his foot, because I have nowhere to grab him. So he wants me to do the one where you step behind. But look at how he just showed the line of his body. He like ran his hand down the side of his body. This is so beautiful. Look at this. He's like, just walk. You don't have to step behind. You just walk into someone, like just bulldoze past them. It's so amazing. It's your whole body. He like goes flying and then he's fine. Look at the difference in his body as he's doing it. He's just walking past. And it's so beautiful. I don't know if that came from his years of doing MMA, just in terms of the body contact or not. But look at how proud he is in his face. He's showing me this framed photo of a kid who trains at his gym who won a Max Stadium belt. And it's his first champion. His gym's only been open for like less than a year at the point that I was training with him here. And he had his first champion. He's so proud of him. I come and clinch with this kid sometimes. He is a nightmare to clinch with. He's bigger than me, but it doesn't matter. That's not why he's so hard. He's like Rambaa in that he just keeps moving. And Rambaa's telling me that this kid is really good at the trip that he showed me, where you wait for the knee to come up and then you just kind of like shove someone off. So look at the body contact that you make, where you're just kind of like crashing into someone, but not in an uncontrolled way. It's just using all of your body force. See how he's timing it with as he's coming in? So as you're swimming in for the clinch, you do this like juggernaut rush on someone. This is so cool, this timing of like as you're swimming in, because in the West everyone just learns how to pummel. Like everyone just learns how to do this swimming to the inside thing. So if you can learn the next thing to do as you're swimming to the inside, whether it's offense or defense, it changes everything. So it's basically like putting your pec on someone. See how he like put his upper body back, and he's like not like this. He's like you use your shoulder to like jam into somebody and knock them off balance. And you can see even just in my basic body position as I'm clinching, I'm trying to keep my upper body off of him. And he uses his upper body, so he has complete advantage in that situation because he's using parts of his body that I don't. And I'm just trying to be polite. Like I'm not comfortable putting my upper body on people, but it's a really good weapon. He's not even using his hands. He's like clinching me without his hands. So there, I'm trying to like use my arm to like stop his chest and keep him at a distance, but the chest is stronger than the hand. So in that moment, it was showing how his system is so much better than mine. That's a really common one. This, like we call it the wall of China. People will use this to kind of stop your knee. And he just steps back. He just does a little hop back and a little bit of a switch stance. But you can hear my feet on the ground. It makes this little like whoosh sound. That's all you have to do. Just get slightly out of the way and then come back with the knee. But see how my hand stays where it was? You don't want to go so far back that it takes too much distance to come back in for the knee. You just basically want to get your hip back enough that you can get out of the lock. I think that he feels people's weak points immediately when you lock up like this, so he knows exactly where to grab and throw. Whereas I'm trying to struggle past someone's strong point instead of identifying the weak point. We're in very different level categories for what we can feel in clinch. But so now he's just having me mess with the different things that he's shown me. He's just making it hard for me. So I had the shove, but I didn't do it dramatically enough for him to go flying, and I didn't follow him. So there's always like little adjustments you need to make a dominant move actually dominant rather than just kind of a drill. He caught the hook I was trying and hooked me. Look at how he uses his shoulder too as he's trying to get into position with me. So he's showing me how if someone grabs your forearms, how you actually use the escape as a grab. You don't get this as much with Muay Thai because people can't grab your wrists like that, but people will kind of hook with the glove a little bit. But he's teaching me like the fluidity of one move going directly into the next one and making these kind of immediate choices based on your body position and their body position and kind of feeling where people are flowing and leaning. You can again see the difference in our body positions, how I'm trying to keep distance between us and he's kind of leaning towards me all the time. See how he's leaning into me and he wants me to do that knee thing then? This is kind of like Aikido, so you're using your opponent's effort against them. So see how he's leaning, and then I don't have to use power. I basically just pull him over my knee. Like, I'm not even moving my knee. You're just tripping him over it. He's like, your opponent is going to be doing all the power for you. You just basically, like, let them keep coming.
I was kneeing him in the balls because I kept trying to go like this. No power. But you don't lift. You just...
He's saying no power. You just... See how I just kind of, like, pulled him into it? So this is really good because there are people who, in the clinch, like to move forward. And it's very difficult to kind of move at the same time that someone is overwhelming you a little bit. So what he does with this is you get super calm. Like, you just, as they're flowing in, you kind of let them go past you rather than trying to struggle against them. But the important part is knowing where you're going to make contact. See how that just kind of flowed with it? Like letting him step into my foot. So here, he's basically showing me when to resist and when not to. So he's showing how he's pushing towards me, and I go super lax and just kind of let him go through, let all of his energy work against him. So here he's showing how if you're both struggling in the center, nobody's getting anywhere. If I try to trip him when we're in the same position, it doesn't really go. But if he's coming towards me and I can stop his foot, I'm using his own energy to kind of throw him in that moment. But it's an interesting addition to what he's been showing me prior to this, because he's been showing me these explosive movements to like shove someone off of you, or kind of when to get tight kind of thing. So now he's showing me when to be relaxed. But it's something that Karahat talks about a lot as well, which is you have a little bit of resistance and then you just melt off of it and use the opponent's continued power or resistance against them. So here I'm trying to position my arms in the right way so that I can pop them off. And he gave me a lot of time to do it and I didn't do it. So he's like, no, you go down now.
I'm trying to like get my...
So he was actually saying that you can keep moving, like push and pull while you're trying to find your position rather than staying still trying to find your position. Master K used to always say, don't stand there and sing a song, which is basically like, don't stand there and figure out what to do. Move while you're trying to figure out what to do. He's really good at this stuff, which is putting your hand over someone's nose, or like in this instance, he's showing me how to put your hands on someone's eye and turn their face so that they can't see. It's just adding more stress and taking away senses for them to be able to do whatever it is they're trying to do. But you have big old gloves, so it's really easy to just smush someone's face and kind of make it harder for them with your gloves. But he's also showing how to use the tension in the arms, like the actual torque as you're pushing on someone's face, can be used as leverage. So see how he can't get into me now? He can't grab. He's saying this is really good in clinch because it doesn't require any power, but it causes a lot of stress. So see how I have him blocked and then I spin to the side? That's popping his arm, like that's hyperextending his elbow because of the tension. So you're actually turning something that would just be like a jerk move of like covering someone's face or eye, but then actually turning it into a leverage point. He's saying this is really good when an opponent is really strong because you can do it very quickly, and it blinds them and makes it difficult for them to have their next thing to do. And he showed me how to like pinch someone's nose closed with your glove, so he definitely has small kind of invisible things that are just between you and your opponent. So I'm pretty small, like I'm not longer than he is, but I can still create that tension because I'm pushing his face to the side. So this is how to escape like a body lock. He puts one hand on my ribs and the other one is up on my shoulder, and he kind of spins me, but he's mostly stepping behind me. See how his left leg just gets to the outside of my leg and then he's kind of crab walking to the side? I'm trying too hard to turn it into a like spin or a turn. See how he gets his leg behind me and then just kind of like creeps over? And it takes a second. Like, I can kind of keep up with him for a second, but then I'm going to fall over because I can't keep moving in that direction, whereas he can. What's really good about this one is that sometimes you can't break out of someone's lock. Like some people get really, really good body locks and you cannot break their arms. But this is just taking them out of their position and moving them across the ring. So even if you don't knock someone over, or even if you don't break their lock, by moving them from that position, you look really good.
Same thing, yeah.
But he's saying it's the same thing with your knee going behind. So see how he could follow me for a second? He's thinking about it. He's like laying there scratching his head thinking about it. So I was putting my leg too far over. I was like lifting it and putting it way far outside. But you actually just kind of walk through them a little bit more. So see how I was able to move him without even moving my foot just because I was closer to him? That's that upper body against upper body thing that he was showing me before. So this is the next variation where he like drops his weight down and pulls back a little bit to create a tiny pocket so you can put your arm through and then you get the under lock. But see, I get the underlock and then don't do anything. Like, what the hell do you do with that position? So now that I've done stage one, he wants me to drop down and then zip tie up. So he's going to show it. You get your arm under. See how he goes low? And then he pulls up. This is what's really cool about this, is that with the drop down, your opponent kind of follows for a second, but then when you pop up with this zip tie, you take the power out of their upper body because now their shoulders are in this really weird like scarecrow position.
Come out of the water.
But you're manipulating them with your own drop down because they're going to follow you a little bit. But see how his arm is now pinned? He wants me to pin it more. He's showing me his right arm. When I come up, see how his arm is up by his neck? If it's up by his ear, he's like, now I have no power on that arm.
He has a good grip, but when I go down and come up, it pulls his arm like that, and he has good power.
It's when you go down, their arm is going to drop down too. It goes lax a little bit to try to catch you. And then when you zip tie up, you get greater disparity between where their arm was and where their arm gets pinned. I'm thinking too much. But see how I come up and then turn over a little bit? Like my body comes to the side so that I can really pin that arm. He's very strong there, but when I drop down and then zip tie up, he has no power. It breaks his lock and it makes it so it's hard for him to get out. Because with your arms up in that position, you don't actually have strength to like pull them back down. It's a very weird position. So he wants me to spin around and go behind him. So zip tie up and then slip behind him, take his back. He's saying he really likes this one. So that's that same zip tie, but see how he goes low first and then comes way up underneath my armpits? And he's gripping against my ribs as he comes up, so it feels extra not awesome as he's doing it. But see how his arms are up? It's very hard for him to have any strength to get out of that position from his arms being up like that. You don't want to stay there because he will find strength in some way. He can like bounce his weight down or something. So once you zip tie up and he has no strength, you want to start to try to turn or get behind him or knee, because now his ribs are totally exposed. So he's saying our bodies are already touching, like that your pec is against my pec, just walk. Use that pressure. So he used my pressure coming against him against me right there. He's showing me how to like suddenly take away the resistance.
Yeah.
So now he's bringing his arms back down because he's super duper strong, showing me that when you come up and take away that power, you need a next move immediately. He's like, if you're too slow, I come up and he can just resist back down. But if I come up and move, he doesn't have time. So he's actually giving me opportunities to find what he's letting me do. He only gives me like 2 seconds to figure it out. But at times I kind of see it and I started to step behind him, but I didn't put my chest against him. So I didn't have enough power to kind of walk him over. So here he's saying how to practice this stuff. He's like, you need to do all of this stuff in training, like just play with all of it so that you feel the timing on it. Like that. He's like, don't do the same one over and over again.
Yeah, good.
I got my moment of praise and then immediate retaliation. So the cool thing about Rambaa's clinch, which you actually don't get to see a lot of when you look at his old fights, because I think it developed over time. His clinch is all a system in that it's feeling where your opponent's weight is and whether they're pushing on you, and you're pushing and pulling as you're moving to different positions. But it's not super complicated. Like, each thing that he showed me is kind of a variation on a theme, so they can all work together based on a similar feeling of taking where your opponent's body is and where yours is. I'm complaining to him that I can't push really well because my hips keep going back. And he's giving me a Thai lesson about the two different words for pushing, like shoving and pushing. And so this is his thing about explosiveness in his entire system. There's this word in Thai, gum, which is where you kind of like hollow out your chest, like this. Look at his body language. He's so awesome. That is totally the like little dude stepping into the ring. See how his chest comes forward? That's his body position. Like, I do the exact opposite body position from that. He's holding his cell phone. He just threw me on the ground with his chest, basically. He's like, this is no good when you hollow out, but see how he puffs his chest and then he can just like toss you anywhere? Those are the small differences. It's that body position is the like spirit of his whole fighting system.